Hello everyone, my name is Noah. I'm going to show you the basics of working with Eclipse Cat software. This video applies to version 6 and above, but it would probably work fine for older versions too. So I'm going to go over some of these things on the right. The first thing we're going to do for the sake of this video is check what version of Eclipse you have. So within Eclipse, you're going to go to the help icon and then the About Eclipse. And this brings up this little uh, About Eclipse box, and it tells you what version you have. I'm on version 6.0.16. So that's how you can see what version you have. Now I'm going to go into the basics of file management. Um, on Eclipse, you can click this icon, which is Files. And by the way, if you don't see this icon, you can come here to Window, and you go to View Toggles, and all of these buttons, or toolbars as they're called, is this one checkbox. So if you click that, you'll see them. There are a number of others that, frankly, I never use. So I leave the one checked so I can get to Files. When you come to Files, you'll see this list of jobs. And when you look at a job, there's a little plus box next to it. The plus box opens up the components of a job. So when you're to select this one job, you're actually selecting 3 files. But if you were to come back here, you'll see that this is actually 3 different files. There's a note file, a .not file, which is the Eclipse note file. That's your steno notes. There's the text document. That's the English component. Usually it's been translated already. And the Eclipse dictionary, which is the job dictionary, if any. If you wanted to, you could, instead of opening up all 3 at once, you could click the plus box and just open one, for example, just the job dictionary. So that's how you open it. If you wanted to rename it, you could click the rename button, but usually you'll just open it. That opens the job. Actually, in this case, I accidentally just opened the dictionary. As an aside, I think it's important to know where these jobs are within Windows. So if you come to File Explorer within Windows and you click on your documents, you'll see that within Documents you almost certainly have a folder named Eclipse. And within that, you'll have a file that's your name. My name is Noah Collins, so this is mine. And these are where all the files are. And you can use Explorer just like you would for any other folder. So you might sort by name or by type, and you can see these are all the dictionaries, or by the date modified, etc. So again, to get there, you go to your documents, and then Eclipse, and then your folder. Again, this applies particularly to Windows 6, version 6 of Eclipse and forward. It is different for version 5 and backwards. So this is where your jobs are on Windows on your hard drive. All right, so let's go. I'm going to start with how to make a new file as though you're making a transcript. We're going to go through reading an ECL file, which is an Eclipse file, into the job, such as a title page, how to make a file like that, like a title page, edit in a transcript, which will include here reading the steno notes into that job as well, and then how to edit it, the basics of using Hyperkeys, and we'll go on from there. Please note this keyboard is here on the right, and as I type, you can see it coming up on the keyboard there. So please follow along with that keyboard if needed. Okay, so to make a new transcript, as you can see on the keyboard on the right, we're going to hit Alt and E. Excuse me, I'm in the wrong. Alt and E. And this brings up the open dialog box within Eclipse. And you can open an existing job or you can simply type in the name of a job you want here. So I might call this demo 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see. And then when I hit enter, it'll say demo 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't exist. Do you want to create it? And once I hit yes, it actually will ask you 2 or 3 different times. But now we've made the job. That's it. You now have job demo 1, 2, 3, 4. And to reiterate, if you wanted to find job 1, 2, 3, 4, you would come back to Documents, back to Eclipse, back to your file. And if I were to type here demo 1, 2, 3, 4, it would actually come up. Here it is. And you can see it's the date modified as August 21st at 9:03, which is right now. Okay, next we're going to go over how to read an Eclipse file into the job. Please keep in mind this is not the read notes function which you use to get notes off a steno machine. That's not what we're doing right now. What I'm talking about is how to read in something like a title page or maybe your other notes or what have you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is hit Alt R. R as in Robert. And you'll notice that oddly, it still brings up a dialog called Open. It's not called Read. But now you'll search for your title page if you have one. I happen to have some, so I'll bring in this is my title page for the Queens Criminal Court Legal Aid Society. Now, this demo job has this as the first page. If I wanted to, I could come here into the second page and type things. But I've shown you how to read jobs in. That's with Alt-R, essentially. If you don't know how to make a title page like this, I'm going to show you. Let's close this. And again, I will press Alt and E to make a new job. Let's call this dummy form. I've done this before, so we'll call it dummy form 2. It doesn't exist, so I'll hit yes again. Okay, so to make a form, there's a number of ways to do this. I'm going to show you how to go into the Eclipse menu. You're going to hit, I believe it's Edit, an Insert, and a Blank, it's called. And by the way, you'll notice that it says Shift and E here. And these are all the different hotkeys you can memorize if you want, so you don't have to click. So Shift and E would do the same thing. If I hit Add Blank, now brings up this dialog box for Add Blank. And I'll go ahead and add a label. So we'll call this Example 1. The adjustable means I would almost always leave this checked. This means that the amount of information you can put in this field is infinite. If you wanted it to be a finite number of characters, you could uncheck adjustable and set the number of characters. This will capitalize everything if you want. Like I usually do that for lawyers' names. And this browse function is a little more advanced, but essentially you could make this use a list file to usually you'll do this for when you have a bunch of lawyers at your courthouse and you just want to keep all the names in a list so you don't have to memorize that. That's a little more advanced than is needed for this video. So I'll hit done. And if I zoom out now, you'll see that there's example 1. And if you click it, you can see that usually it says, but type some things here. Well, oh well, if you right click on it, you can fill it in. Usually I forget the hotkey actually to fill it in. And now you can put whatever information you want here. So I'll just write OK. And again, just to repeat the process, Shift E brings up a field. So you might put for example, like the date. And maybe you'd never want the date to be more than, who knows, whatever it is, 20 characters. And you want to capitalize the date. So you'll hit fill in this field, which I suppose is hotkey T. And I'll fill in the fields, and I'll write today's date is August 21st, 2019. And you can see it capitalized that because we did that in the checkbox. Okay, we're going to go on to, we did the making form, so let's go on to editing a transcript. This is very tied into using hyperkeys. So I'm going to open up a random job here. This looks like it's edited already because I see some blue, so I'll just go here. There's a number of hyperkeys you would use to edit this transcript. You don't want to use the mouse as you edit transcript. Keep in mind here that as you move the cursor around, you'll notice that this is the way I write Brooklyn, New York here corresponds to this steno over here. And this is how I write Brooklyn, New York. And you can see it came out in English over here. I'm going to make the font or the display a little zoomed in so you can see it better. Whoops, shouldn't have done that, but I'll zoom in a little bit here so it's a little easier to see. And I'll change the font to bold and Arial, etc. So it's easier to see. I'm sorry, and to open up that menu that I just showed you, that was Alt-U, and this is the user settings. And you can change some of the toggles around with the editing font, which I always do to make my editing a little easier. Okay, so to edit a transcript using hyperkeys, first of all, you have to have this hyperkeys box checked. So you can see it's blue when it's checked, or on blue if it's unchecked, not just transparent, so to speak. It's blue if it's checked. If I have it checked, as I press different keys on the keyboard, it'll do different things. If I were to have it unchecked, and you see the cursor looks different, and as I just type on the keyboard, it just comes right up in text in English. And you can notice that it's a different color by default. But conversely, if I want to hit hyperkeys, now each key acts as a hotkey as a way. So for example, the letter A, as you'll notice I'm pressing on the keyboard, toggles if a word will be capitalized or not capitalized. So as I press A, it does that for that word and goes to the subsequent word. Z is a hyperkey for undo. So you'll notice as I press Z, it's undoing some of the things I just did. And you'll notice it only works a finite number of times, and as a word to the wise, don't rely on undo too strongly in Eclipse because it is unreliable, to say the least. Some of the hotkeys you'll use all the time are, as you can see, I'm pressing on my keyboard, J, K, L, and I. And that's sort of your right fingers there on the home keys. These move the cursor around. So you'll notice as I press L, it's moving from left to right. Conversely, as I press J, it's moving from right to left. I makes the cursor go up, and K makes the cursor go down. If you want to move, you'll notice each time I press it, it's going to one word. If you want to move one letter, one character, you hold Shift and press a key. A lot of hyperkeys have related but different functionality if you press Shift. So as I told you before, if you press A, it capitalizes a word, it just toggles it. But if you were to press Shift and then A, it capitalizes the entire word. Notice that that doesn't undo it, and you do press C to undo that. Okay, I'm going to go over some of the basic ones, some of the basic other hyperkeys you'll use. Q turns the current sentence that you're on into a question. You'll notice that no matter where I am, I press Q, it goes to the end of the sentence, and it ended the sentence with a question mark. And P, as in Peter, does something similar where it automatically puts a period at the end of the sentence. Keep in mind that it doesn't insert a period where you are. It goes to wherever it finds punctuation like a period or a question mark and amends that to a question mark or to a period. Some of the other ones I use frequently, I do sometimes use this W hotkey. This brings up a list of prefixes and suffixes. And I'm sorry, let me do this again. I'll press W here. And you'll notice that my cursor's on the word handing. And if I'm to select D, which there's a shortcut for it, and hit OK, it changes handing to handed. And I'll press Z to undo that. You'll notice it didn't work the first time, so I did it again to change it back to handing. Again, maybe I want to hit W and press S, and that changed it to hands. But if I press Z, it just goes back to hand for some reason, and then I press Z again, it goes back to handing. So there's a few that I use frequently here to make things plural, to make things the past tense with D, to make things the sort of continuous tense with ing. Several of the others I don't actually use here, but it's a useful hotkey. Actually, I suppose those are 90% of the hotkeys I use. So now that I've explained some of those, I might go through a transcript. Again, with hyperkeys on, if you press comma, it automatically puts a comma attached to the previous word and sort of takes care of the spacing for you. If you return hotkeys off and put a comma somewhere, like this, it just, actually, I didn't know that, it does work. All right, so Livy, it does work. So anyway, as I'm looking at this sentence, good morning, I can see that there's 2 iterations of the court here, so I'll delete one. I'll go up to it and press backspace. That's it. Oh, so Miss Calendar had filed a motion to dismiss. I'll get rid of that. With backspace, I'm pressing. Another hotkey I left out is D. D as in David. D deletes the current word that you're on. So if I wanted to delete filed a motion to dismiss, for example, I can press D twice and it deleted of and dismiss, but I'll press Z twice to undo that. So D as in David dismisses. Again, Z as in zebra undoes, I should say. Now there is a new attorney on the case. I'll get rid of those commas. I'm not going to set a motion schedule. What are we doing in this case today? Any offer. That's a question. So I'll hit Q to turn this whole sentence into a question. But this is really just poor speech, and I might change it around to, is there any offer? Something like that. Ms. Weber, Your Honor, comma, the people move for an ACD with a full word of protection. Get rid of that comma. Can I have a brief second call to discuss it with my client? That's again a question. Yes, second call. Now you might notice that this says defense counsel here. And for a transcript purpose, you don't leave in defense counsel. So if I wanted to change that, you can click on it with the mouse, or with the keyboard, you just go up to where it is, what's to the right of it, I suppose, and you hit backspace to highlight it. And then I'm going to press F2. Oh, shoot, I accidentally pressed 2. Disregard that. Press F2. And F2 brings up this speaker list. So if we take a look at the speaker list, it puts all the speakers here, and I kind of can see that this guy's name is Mr. Paris with 2 R's. I actually recognize the name. I don't think I have that here, so I might come here to a new one and change this to Mr. Paris as an example, and press OK. And I'll do it again, press OK. And now if I come here, press OK, change this one to Mr. Paris. This is the defense counsel speaking again, so if I wanted to change this one again, I would have to do F2 and come in here and find Mr. Paris. Now I should mention that if you were so inclined, you could come in here and change Defense Counsel altogether. You would double click it and change this to Mr. Paris. Now, I'm not going to truthfully do this because this will change every instance of Defendant's Counsel, which is your general catch-all for Defense Counsel, to an instance of Mr. Paris. And I'll say OK, and once you hit OK, it'll ask you, do you want to do it for all? I suppose I could show you this menu. So once I were to type Mr. Paris, excuse me, and the master is Defense Counsel, if I hit OK, it's saying, are you sure you want to do that, change that for the whole document or just from this point forward? You can press all to change the whole document or just forward. I'm going to press cancel because I don't want to do that for any of these jobs. But this is how you use the speakers list that you'll certainly use for editing a transcript. Usually what I do is I leave everything as Defense Counsel, get this part of the transcript done, and when I copy and paste it all into a new job, in the new job, I'll change it there. I think we've went over most of the basic hyperkeys and the hotkeys. I just explained the comma, F2 for the speakers list. It's possible I'm leaving a few out. That's why I'm going to discuss this getting and using the help menu. Within Windows, there's a robust, I would admit, help system. You can come to help and type help, and you can search for whatever you want. So if you wanted to learn more about the speaker list, for example, you could come here and click speaker list, and Eclipse gives you a thorough explanation of the speaker list, and it's quite comprehensive, probably more information than you could ever use. And you can see just how insane the help menu is in Eclipse. I really have to commend them for being so thorough. If you want to learn more hyperkeys, you can come again to the help menu and you'll use Eclipse documentation. Typically, that would bring up a folder and it would have a few PDFs in it, one of which is hyperkeys, and it'll give you a breakdown of what they do. I don't have it on this computer, so I can't show it to you. All right, let's go over the dictionary basics now. If you press F9 on the keyboard, F9 that is, this brings up the dictionaries menu. And you can see that right now I'm using a main dictionary, and this is the job dictionary for the job I happen to be on. If I wanted to, I could change this dictionary. I don't want to do that, so I'll get rid of that. But let's double click a dictionary. And this brings up, I'm now in this job's dictionary. And you can see this is, it tells you what the name of the file is here. It's a .dix, which is short for dictionary. And these are some of the dictionary entries I have in this particular job. I'm going to get out of this and go back to Eclipse. If you press F9 here, it tends to default to your main dictionary. So I'll press Enter. When you open Eclipse, it brings up this entire menu of your dictionary. You can sort it any way you want. If you want to see the most frequently used words, you can sort here. If you want to sort it by steno, you can sort it here, or by text. And that's the basics of a dictionary. Again, I think I guess I omitted something from the job. Another hyperkey you'll use often is G. G as in gorilla. G is for global. So if you wanted to global something, you could. You can see that my dictionary is not bad, so I'm not going to add anything to my dictionary. But perhaps you want to add the people with a capital P as a job dictionary. And you'd once I pressed, you might have to select two of them. M is to select, and conversely, F7 is the same function as M. M with the hyperkeys on, or F7 with the hyperkeys off. It accomplishes the same thing, which is it selects the current word that you're on. So if you select what you wanted, and you can see that there's the corresponding steno over here, the people, I'll hit G with the hyperkeys on to open up this this dialog box, and you can see that the people is both what I have highlighted in the English and in the steno. And you can see it tells me the people here in steno. Maybe I want to put this into my job dictionary. I truthfully don't use any of these other ones. I tend to just use a job dictionary and a main dictionary. So if I wanted to, I could put it in the job dictionary and hit OK. And I just did that. And that's it. If you have some steno that just comes out as raw steno, you would hit M to select it, or maybe F7 to select that raw steno. You can actually turn things back into steno, I think. That's with Ctrl F7. So full order of protection here for me is FORP. And if I wanted to, I could come to FORP, select it with, again, either M as in Mary or F7. I could press G. And if you were to not have hotkeys on, you wouldn't press F7 and hit G. It just sort of adds it on, so it doesn't work. To get technical with hyperkeys off, you can accomplish the same thing by pressing Ctrl G. But again, I would recommend using hyperkeys and just pressing G. And you can see it gives you a list of possible suggestions there. I guess I might have made it go away. So I'll again select it, press Ctrl G, and you can see it gives these possibilities that it's recommending. This is what it actually is, and if I wanted to, I could add it to the job dictionary, and there's a hotkey for that, which is Ctrl J. So if I were to hit Ctrl J, it would add it to the job dictionary if I select it. Well, it's not working, but whatever. Get the idea. You can tell, again, that hyperkeys is off because of the shape of the cursor, so don't forget to turn it back on. This is just general editing a transcript. I mean, I think that there's an art to editing transcripts where I again changed here, is there any offer? I kind of changed a poor sentence, but one that I probably wrote accurately into a neater sentence while still completely preserving the meaning and not possibly allowing for any ambiguity. You want this to look good on paper. I actually know that this Miss Calendar is not how you actually spell her name. I think it has 2 L's, and I think it's an E at the end. I'm just going to move on to Spellcheck. Eclipse has a good Spellcheck button. It's this glasses with a pen thing. You'll click it, and it immediately takes you to your incorrect. Here it's selecting these asterisks, which I put at the end of every job. And you can see in the little dialog box, it tells you it's incorrect punctuation. I'm going to ignore this one. Here's one where it tells me again that there's a double speaker where it's the court is speaking, and then next is still the court. So for this one, I might choose to delete it, and I'll press delete. It immediately moves on to the next one. Again, here's another double speaker, so I'll do the same thing and hit delete. I wish I could hit ignore all for this, but I can't, so I'll hit ignore. Ignore. Good luck to you, sir. This one is supposed to be just a period at the end, so I'll come find that here and hit change. And I changed it. I guess I should be zoomed out so you can see that. This is a just weird thing where I pressed the E on my steno machine accidentally and I put a space there, so I'll hit delete. But that didn't delete the he. It doesn't know that that's a error. So you should be cognizant that the spell check doesn't catch all of your mistakes. It just catches basically incorrect spelling and sometimes incorrect punctuation. It doesn't catch everything. So if I wanted to get rid of this he, I would hit escape to get out of that spell check, come to this he, and press D as in David with the hyperkeys on again to delete that and to get rid of it. I suppose another hotkey I do use all the time is Ctrl P is for to make a new paragraph. I guess I'll just go over one or two more things that I can see being useful. If you want to make a header in a document, you press Alt-N, and that brings up this insert print command. One of them is header. And please note that, again, if you have hyperkeys on, you'll see this thing. And if you were to just start typing right now, oh, it would not work. I forgot to mention this. When you have hyperkeys on, you first have to press N before you want to type anything. So I might type proceedings, etc. If I want to type anything here, I don't explain that. You have to press N as in Nancy, and then you can begin typing. But if you were to just hit a bunch of keys, you'll see that as I'm pressing keys in the, it's doing all sorts of wild things. So if I wanted to just type proceedings now, you'd see it brings up all these crazy error messages and jumps all over the document. If you want to type something, you have to first go to N, hit N as in Nancy, and then type whatever you need to type. When you're done typing and you want the cursor to go back to this bigger cursor, like hotkeys, you press Enter. And now you'll see that hyperkeys are back to working. So if you type A, it does not type A. If I wanted to hit surcharge, if I press A right now, it's just toggling the capitalization of surcharge. So I have to hit N as in Nancy first, press A to type the letter A, and then hit Enter to subsequently get out of the typing mode, so to speak, to go back to typical hyperkeys. I should have sort of, I'll do that. Okay, thank you for watching the video. I hope it was informative. If you have questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll try to address general Eclipse questions if this is not the video for auto-indexing, because I don't even know how to do that. Or there's other advanced things that Eclipse can do, so let me just repeat that. If you need help, a good place to start is with this help and help topics, and coming back to whatever you need to search for. Okay, thanks for watching.